I'm Taylor,
I'm Emily.
and Craig's not here, and this is the Everglades. Okay, the Everglades are a vast, nearly flat seabed that was submerged at the end of the last ice age. They have a deep, flat limestone base formed from the calcium carbonate of the shells of tiny marine creatures over millions of years. During the last glacial minimum, around 110,000 years ago, the sea deposited a porous limestone layer, the Biscayan Aquifer. Around the same time, the Atlantic Coast Ridge was deposited, a several-mile-wide strip of limestone 20 feet higher than the current sea level. It formed the eastern edge of the Everglades, and when the sea level subsided, kept much of the water flowing south of the Florida's Bay, though some flowed east into the Biscayne Bay. Only about 5,000 years ago did South Florida's climate take on its current subtropical and monsoonal character. Overall, the Everglades are very nutrient poor and mostly limestone. All right. As for the biome, it is a temperate deciduous forest and a flooded grassland. For the climate, it is mild and pleasant from December through April, and there is a lot of precipitation in the months from May to September, as you can see from this graph. And the average rainfall is about 60 inches. As for wildlife, it's the only place in the world where crocodiles and alligators live next to each other. It's because alligators like deep freshwater channels of water called sloughs in a wet prairie. And then the American crocodile lives in the coastal mangroves of the Florida Bay. There's also 27 different types of snakes. There's also land mammals such as raccoons, possums, skunks, deer. There's also the Florida panther, which there's only 80 left, and 350 bird species. Ecosystems. It is a 2 million acre wetland ecosystem. It is a good place for the American crocodile and alligator. Also, manatees live there, and they are federally listed as endangered. And it's a perfect place for a manatee because they cannot live in very cold water, and the wetlands are pretty warm. And so,
So the Everglades National Park was authorized by Congress in 1934 to preserve the subtropical ecosystem and everything that lives within it. And at the time, people were fascinated with the large number of wading birds that nested in the Everglades each year. And the establishment of the park marked the first time federal land was set aside for its abundance of diverse plant and animal species rather than for its scenic views. And the 1.5 million acre park has an impressive collection of nationally and internationally significant resources protected within its boundaries and is the only subtropical wilderness in North America. And the Everglades has a lot of important history. For example, the Everglades are filled with Indian culture that exhibits the home that was once owned by the Seminole and Miskosukee Indians, and Native Americans had inhabited the Everglades until they were forced to move west as a result of the Trail of Tears War beginning in 1835. And the Everglades Rangers also put on many beneficial programs which can expose the beauty and culture of the Everglades to other people. And it's important to educate people because then it'll make them realize how important national parks such as the Everglades are to America and why we should preserve them. Sadly, there are many different harmful threats to the Everglades. For example, expanding urban development throughout most of the southeastern United States has been cited by experts as the primary cause. However, habitat destruction is only partially responsible, as shooting by hunters, mercury poisoning, and car accidents are also frequent causes. High level of mercury has become a huge threat at the park and has been identified in all levels of the food chain. For example, the fish in the marsh to the alligators and raccoons. And the Everglades is also a subtropical region, and its only source of water is rain. And with the extensive integration of canal systems, much of rainwater is being cut off before it can even reach the Everglades. So then, when too much water enters the park at the wrong season, alligator nests are flooded and wading birds can't find food sources for feeding young. And also, distribution of not enough water means that not enough of the park can produce the important small aquatic organisms that act as the base of the food web for most of the ecosystem. And the Everglades National Park was the first park to be established with the notion of saving a suffering ecosystem. And the presence of many endangered species that were said before, and the multitude of threats posed by human activity create the simplest awareness that there is still more to be acknowledged and much more to be saved.
And finally, the agencies protecting the Everglades are the Everglades Foundation, which raises money to protect the Everglades, and more importantly, the Department of Environmental Protection of Florida. So together they just protect the Everglades. There's our bibliography. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.